Something other than the Italian buttercream, but the outside has to be the Italian buttercream.
It has to be white?
No, you can color it and flavor it if you want, but it doesn't have to be white. It can be white.
Yeah,
so I just did a random pattern with my small offset on the outside of mine. Make sure it's warm so it stays where you want it, but it's easy to work with. You don't pick up any crumbs. Level it. I do the texture first and then level the top. And then we're going to put a 10-inch round on the bottom. Leave a little glue, a little bit of icing here. That way we've got a lip around the bottom of this cake so you can pipe the shells. And this, we got it lined up, and then so the bottom is going to be shells that overlap each other. Very end. So what I mean by that is I'm going to do a 45-degree angle. We're going to pipe out, we're going to rotate our wrist, then bring it back, and then bring a tail that's tapered. Now I put a little too much pressure in the beginning, so that beginning kind of flared out. Don't do that. You want even pressure so the sides are well parallel really. They don't start bulbous and then go narrow. So ease up on the pressure on that one. And then I'm going to overlap the tail with the next one. Repeat that. So those last three look a little better. They start out even pressure, they're more even width. Start to finish, and then the tail tapers off. You want to leave enough space between the beginnings and the ends. Good. You can overlap them and get them way too close too, so make sure you have some space between them. And just overlap that very end of the tail. A lot of places though, they'll do the continuous one because it, makes sense time-wise. I don't want that though. I want you to practice doing individual shells,
But it's easier. Why can't we do this?
So individual shells that overlap each other. Now on the bottom, you kind of have to tuck it in. I mean, you can do them standing straight up like those. But right now it's kind of a corner built in here, so I'm going to tilt mine a little bit and pipe them in. I'm not going to pipe all the way around, but take an angle, tuck them in there. So depending on your texture, you may or may not smooth out the base just a little bit, so it's not pushing the shells off of the cardboard. You want to have enough space, you have a lid to work with. But if you have too much texture sticking way too far out, you might have to flatten that bottom edge just a bit so you can tuck those in. Do you guys have any questions on those? Okay. So the top is what's called a reverse shell or reverse scroll. Now the way you want to think of them is as rosettes with tails, and they'll have two different directions. So you'll pipe one, and you can choose how it's going to work out. You'll pipe one counterclockwise, and then the tail. The next one next one clockwise rather. So start this way, the tail, and the next one counterclockwise, the tail. So just continue with that, but each one is a different direction. So you can have different spacing between them like this. You can make them a lot more room between them, or make them kind of tight. So it's totally up to you. But again, basically it's a rosette with a tail, clockwise or counterclockwise. You have a little tail come off of it. The next one's the opposite direction. So the next direction or the other direction. The other thing is too, if you notice here, it's going to start getting a little wide, so you've got to start in from the edge of the cake just a little bit. If you start too close to the edge, you might not have room to kind of fit the next one in next to it, so give a little space away from the edge. So again, just a rosette with a tail. You want a little bit of a curve to the tail, not too straight. Now it's counterclockwise, so next one will be clockwise. Next one will do that over again, too far away from the edge. And I might just do this one here. So you can do, even with the smaller star tip, looks pretty good too, but just check your spacing, try to keep it even between the shells, keep your tails the same length. Again, try to get a little bit of a curve to them because you're on a circle here. It's not a straight line, so you gotta be aware of the edge of the cake at all times. And even this one I kind of finished a little close, so I should have bumped it out a little bit over here so I have room to start the next one. You can also cover this up with roses or flower leaves too if you want. But
So we're starting with the where the tail is of each one.
or close to it, yeah. And like I said, you can change the spacing between the rosettes, make them longer or get them closer together. You do want to start where that tail stops with the next one.
All the way around.
Yeah. All the way around, yeah. So do that all the way around. Fix this one just a bit.
These are called reverse shells.
Yeah. So you're gonna do that all the way around. then you'll know you got the rest of the space for 3 flowers. Again, 3 roses piped. Minimum, you need more than that if you want. And then the chocolate description as well. So again, get the shells on first, then you know how much space you got to work with.
Could you put the roses on top of one side of the shell?
It's better if you do, unless you, I mean, you don't have much space when you do a bigger tip.
I'm thinking smaller.
Smaller, yeah, smaller is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you put your roses on top of the shells a little bit?
Oh yeah,
or?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. So I'll do that next. So we've got a few things here. We got rose nails. We'll take a look and pass them around. There's a little grip at the stem. You can spin them around and pipe onto it. This is a petal tip. I'll head around next. It's got a wide end and a narrow end. We have many leaf tips.
I have a kit with a whole bunch of these.
So leaf tip here. The leaf tip we have, they have 2 cuts into them and then a V cut out of the center. So cut, V cut, cut again. Like that. Some of the better ones are more of a bird's beak with just one V cut. This will leave you a better leaf usually in a line down the center or a vein down the center. The ones we have are the double cut with the V. They tend to break off in 2 points, which isn't the end of the world, and it won't mean that I won't check it off, but just be aware of that. Sometimes as you pipe it, you can twist them, or twist the tip and have those points cross over, or you can take a skewer and kind of fix them up a little bit, but it's okay, but expect that. They'll be coming out of 2 points with this one, 1 point on this one. So I've got a few of these in my box here that I can lend you if you want to use those. Or you can also put some in a cornet and just cut it Their scissors, a little V cut, and that can be tiny single point leaves too. It's kind of cool looking. So be aware of that. All we have are the ones, I got a few of the other ones, but most of them are that double cut. So as far as the roses go, I've got my rose color in a bag with no tip. You're gonna do one with a little plain tip. And then the other one, same color, the petal tip. So the way we'll work this is, on the nails, well, I'm not sure what to do something. So you get the nail, the grip on there. What we're going to do is we're going to pipe a cone on top of that with the plain one, so the one without a tip. Cut a small hole in the end. So we're going to pipe a cone, kind of a wide base, and up to a point. That's what we're going to build our petals on top of, okay? That's going to be our form for the rose, basically. So if you looked at that edge of the petal tip, there's a wide end and an end that comes to a point. You want the wide end facing the floor, or the top of the nail. We're going to change the angle of that slightly as we pipe, but you want the wide end facing down. So anyway, we're going to start halfway up the cone, all the way up, almost near the top of the cone. And we're going to tilt this narrow end of the tip really far in, so we can pipe a single, single ribbon, there we go, cross it over to become the rosebud in the center. So you're going to hold that bottom with the wide end towards the floor, and we're going to tilt that tip in so you pipe it out to one single ribbon. We're going to cross it over, I'll do this. Cross it over on top to become the rose. Something like that. You pipe a single ribbon, cross it over, so there's a tiny opening for the rosebud, okay? Then, the next set is going to be a set of 3 petals. At that point, the wide end comes halfway down the cone, okay? And the face of it is parallel to the wall. So the top one is a ribbon, we tilt it really far in, so we have a small opening at the top. This next set, or first set rather, set of 3, we're going to bring to the tip, and the edge of the tip will be parallel to the wall. And I'll show you how to do this. Do 3 petals at that point. Any of the sets of petals, there can be a slight overlap from petal to petal. What you have to remember is you need to do a small arcing motion when you pipe them out. Don't do it straight and then back up a little bit, overlap, and do another straight one. You want to make sure you start, go up, and then back down. The reason being, this small edge here is going to create a thin edge on the buttercream, so it's going to curl on its own. It looks like the edge of a petal, where it's really thin and papery. You also don't want to do straight lines because it'll look like a carnation. You want to start, pipe up, and then down, and that petal. You want to back up just a little bit to overlap the next one. Start, pipe up, and then down. So small arcing motion, like this. Depending on the number of petals, you do an overlap. So in this case, 3. But the next set we'll do 5. So we'll go further down the cone. The base of that petal tip gets flared out just a little bit more. So initially it's really far in. First set was straight parallel to the wall. The next set we're going to flare it out. What that does is open up the flower. So at the top it's the rosebud. As you go down you get petals that open up. So I'm trying to show you this here. I'll do this, but this is basically the angle that you're holding that tip out as you pipe the sets. So that's 3 petals here. This one's 5 petals. Okay. If you have room, you do a set of 7. That means you really got to flare that tip out, but it also means it's close to the surface of the nail, so you might not have room for that. It's okay. So you'll flare it out, maybe this angle really far out. So the last set of petals is really open. You can certainly stop at 3 petals too if you wanted to. And you can make them small roses and then wider roses with more petals. Kind of vary the look of it. Any questions on that before I actually practice them out? Okay. Some people actually pipe this onto parchment. So they'll put a little dot, square of parchment, and they'll pipe on top of the parchment. And slide that off into a plate or a platter and then chill them so they firm up. So that's an option too. So, here's my cone with a wide base, and it's pretty big. Don't be shy with it. If you make it too narrow, it's going to fall over as you put petals on it. So really make a good base. My petal tip here, again, the wide end facing the floor, will be down like this. The narrow end facing the ceiling, or pointing to the ceiling. So I'm going to start at the top and do that first rosebud, so really high end. As I go down the set of 3, it'll be more like this, set of 5, like that, set of 7 if I have room, or really far out. So again, first up, really high up at the top of that. I'm going to pipe this out and just rotate around and break that off. So go ahead and pass that around, take a look at it. Just one single ribbon for the rosebud. Look down on top, just small opening. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see the cone showing through the top, so make sure that top opening is very tiny. Don't close it, but you want just a little small opening. Yeah, I know. It looks like it looks funny, right? Maybe. So while you're passing that around, I should mention this too. As you work with the buttercream, it's going to get warmer in your hand, so be aware of that. It's going to change how it pipes out. So you might, if your hands are really hot, you might have 2 bags with petal tips in them. So you can switch out as you do each set or something. But be aware, if you hold it, it's going to warm up, it's going to act different. So try to keep on the cool side. So there's the rosebud. Thank you. And now, the bottom of the tip, halfway down the cone. Okay. Arcing motion. So I'm going to start 1, I'll bring it up and then back down. So there's 1 petal, and it'll overlap with my next ones. So I'll back up just a little bit, not quite halfway, maybe a third of an overlap petal. Again, start, go up, and then come back down. And again, the tip is straight up and down, parallel to the wall. So there's number 2. And I have just enough room for a third one there. So back up, overlap, start it, come up, and then come back down. Now starting to teeter a little bit, so what I can do is kind of tap this on the table, firm up, then pass it around, take a look at it. So if this buttercream gets too hot, you might be tempted to throw this thing in the reach-in. That won't work because it'll harden in that metal tip. Unless you got plastic tip, which you might have. It'll harden in there, which it'll harden in plastic tip too, I guess, but you won't be able to pipe it out. So really your best bet is kind of flatten this out and let it sit on the tabletop for a little bit to cool down. So that was the rosebud and the 3 petals. I'll do 5 when it comes back around. Alright, so instead of straight up and down, now I'm going to flare it out just a bit. So probably like this instead of like this and like this. So 5. Now it's about the same circumference or distance around, so I need to make like shorter petals because I need 5 instead of 3 this time. I need to fit more petals in the same space basically. So flare it out just a bit, up and then down, overlap, 2, 3, 4, where I stop with this one, 5. Pass that around. Yeah, you won't use all that. So I'll show you when I actually put on the cake. So as far as the cake goes, in placing this on the cake, you could chill this on the nail if you wanted to, although we don't have that many, only a few nails, but not everybody to chill them all on the nails. So easiest thing to do is actually place it right after you pipe it out. The way you do that is open up some scissors, and they make special scissors that have a little indentation on them. So this part kind of gets grooved or moved down a little bit, kind of offsets, I guess, a little bit. Anyway, you go in there, about halfway open. What you want to do is put this between the nail and the rose, close it just enough to separate the flower. Not all the way yet, but just enough to separate from the nail. And then we're ready to place it. We'll close it all the way, which will expose the maximum amount of the icing on the bottom, so you can just actually touch it, help it stick, and kind of twist this out, or slide it out, and leave the rose behind. So again, about halfway. Do this and twist at the same time. Now I'm going to close it all the way. And now I've got surface I can actually touch it to the cake and twist it away. Set it on there. Same thing, about halfway open or so. If you want to cut off some of that base and not leave it behind, you can certainly do that. You don't need all that icing necessarily. Close it all the way. Now depending on the temperature, like it's starting to get crushed a little bit, depending on the temperature of the buttercream, you might want to chill it first, or use a skewer to kind of help you position it as it comes off of the scissors. Again, pretty wide base. People tend to pipe it really narrow, and then it falls over right away. So just take care to make sure it's a nice sturdy cone you're piping onto. Pretty high up. A little twist. Three. 5. You can let it tip out a little bit with each set. So there's 5 shorter petals. Again, make sure you are coming up and come back down, because then we get a big difference in how it looks. If you still have something you want to cover up, then this is a good point to get the leaves in action there, kind of fill in some of the gaps, or smaller flowers even. So think about grouping your flowers. Don't just do 1, 2, 3 like a triangle. I mean, you could do that, but usually have little tight groupings of garnishes. In this case, the pipe flowers, or even leaves. Do those in tight, small groupings. You guys have any questions on the roses? If you need help one-on-one, I can help you at your table. Just make sure you have everything ready to go, and I can help you pipe some out so you get an idea of how to do it. But again, make sure that wide end is facing down. Some people turn it over, they're piping away. It looks like, I don't know, your rose got a bunch of flat lips or something. You'll see, it doesn't look right. The edges won't be frilly or anything like that, or thin. So it doesn't look right. It probably means your tip is upside down. So here's that double V cut, the ones we have for the leaves. A couple different things you can do with that. You can move it fairly slowly. Again, there's the 2 points it usually breaks off into. And you can use a skewer to move those together, or sometimes, not always, you can try to twist it as you end it. Or use a skewer to break that off. I don't know. What do you want to do? few tiny ones stick up a little bit. But even so, that's what this tip breaks off, is at 2 points. It doesn't look the best, but you can also hold it in place a lot longer, get some ruffles going. So whatever kind of style you want to do. But usually you're going to tuck these in underneath the leaves, or petals rather, just a bit. And if you want, like I said, it looks pretty cool if you have the tiny leaves coming out of the cornet too. So you just want to vary the angle, not just make them all flat. Trying to change the height a little bit, tuck them in different places. Make some longer, some shorter. Kind of fill in the gaps here and there. Maybe trail down the side a little bit if you want. Hang on over the edge. Let's see what it cuts. So if you want to do the trick with the cornet, you gotta put the icing in there first and then cut it. So we'll flatten that tip just slightly, and then use my scissors to kind of cut a little V in there. I'm trying to do something like this here.
Dessert question. Do any of them not have dairy?
The desserts, no.
They're all on dairy.
Yeah.
Okay.
The allergy?
Yeah.
Good.
Is there possibly anything you could do for somebody
We'll do the fruit bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Please. A little bit bigger. Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Well, of course, this one was breaking off at 2 points too. Usually it doesn't do that. Anyway, tiny ones on there. They aren't quite as apparent as the big ones, but. Flat rosebud?
Like, type it right on the paper.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't count that as your checkoff though. You gotta do them on nails too.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So I won't count that as your checkoff rose, so you can do more than the 3 minimum. That's fine. Alright, now it's really pouring lots of ivy coming on here. Everywhere. Anyway, you can take it too far, so just be careful. Yeah. So get your roses, your leaves, 5 minimum on the leaves. Of course, you can do more than that if you want. And then you know how much space you've got for your inscription. So you want chocolate just melted, so not too hot. Otherwise it'll flow too quickly. So I put some dark and some white, I'm trying to get a little marble. It'll show up a little bit in the piping. I should say this too though. As far as the petals go, you can put 2 colors in the petal bag, if you will. So you have the base of the petal one color and the very tip a different color.
Yes.
Usually what that means is you got 2 bags inside of a bag, although if you're careful you can kind of pipe it in one color, then right next to it pipe the other color in. Either way. And then again inside a 3rd bag with a tip on it, but you can do that too.
I'm gonna do that.
I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. haven't seen this, you want to fold this kind of a V and kind of overfill this up. You want to fill them halfway, V on both sides, and then kind of roll that top down all the way too. No. No, it's in case you want to give it to somebody. It's intact. And if you want it to be. So, first off, review what you're about to spell. Okay? Because people do birthday or whatever.
I accidentally spelled my best
Birthday.
friend's name wrong on her cake.
Or anniversary gets spelled often, so just know what you're spelling, review it. If it comes down to it though, you can chill the whole cake and the chocolate will harden up as well, and you go back with the skewer or offset and kind of pick it off. It will leave an indentation, so that'll happen, but you can then pipe it over again if you absolutely have to. You can chill it down, pick it off, and redo it if you have to. But a little bit, a little tight. Got your shells around there. We play tennis in here? No!
Raphael.
Hey, oh, yes. Oh. You two in high school and you were allergic to it? Yeah?
Tennis?
So fun. Oh. Alright, alright. So pick a font, you use a script, you do print, block letters, whatever. There's so many different styles of lettering. I'm sure you've seen them all. You can see more online if you haven't, but pick one, keep it a nice font. It does help to practice different types of fonts though, not just always do cursive or always do print or block letters. Just have some variety you can show people. But. So anyway, that is the celebration cake. So hopefully you have somebody you can give it to and inscribe it to. You can make it something funny if you doesn't always have to be happy birthday or congratulations, although it can be. You can do something, it's just like a private joke kind of thing, that's fine.